thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Hey, this is April Hunter, and you are listening to the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robbie Vega.
What's up, rock soldiers? This is the rockstar Robbie Vegas with another brand new episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. And sitting directly next to me, to my right, is WWE legend Demolition Smash. How you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for agreeing to do it. Super short notice. I said it, and you're here.
Yeah, unbelievable. I just happened to be in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I flew in from Orlando, Florida, where it was 80 degrees and it's 40 here, so I'm freezing to death.
And here is in Niagara Falls, New York, not the Canadian side. And yeah, I can tell you were in Florida. You're more tan than I am. I'm very pale here. And I want to talk to you about so many things right now, and they're just running through my head. But the first thing I need to get out of the way is, because I'm a big rock and roller, is the makeup inspired by Kiss at all?
No, I think Kiss was inspired by us.
All right, I believe you.
Yeah, I don't know how it ever came about, but it just worked when we did it one time. So then we just started painting our face all the time.
So it was just kind of just a random thing. It just fell into your lap.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
When I went up to the WWF at the time and became Smash the Demolition, we started painting our faces right then, and then it just stayed with us till now, even. You know.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm watching you guys do the makeup here just a second ago, and you got these little mirrors, and you're just doing it by hand in these little mirrors, and I'm amazed because I can't even put eyeliner on that way, and you're doing a whole face paint like that. That's pretty incredible.
Well, we've learned to do it in the worst places. You know, we've done them outside. We're doing them here in an auditorium because the dressing room's not open yet. Mm-hmm. And we're just trying to waste some time, so there's something to do. You know, we're only about 2 or 3 hours early, but
yeah, right.
You know, give you something to do. Put a little paint on your face.
So, what year did you actually break into the professional wrestling business?
I broke in the business about 1981, I believe it was, right in there. I went through Eddie Sharkey's wrestling camp.
Oh, wow. And were you already a wrestling fan, or did somebody just approach you like, hey, do you want to get into this? Well,
I was a fan all my life, and I grew up with Kurt Hennig, and Kurt Hennig got into wrestling because his dad was Larry the Axe Hennig. And then it was myself, Rick Rude, and the Road Warriors. We all worked at a bar in Minneapolis, and one of the bartenders was Eddie Sharkey. Mm-hmm. So we used to throw guys out the bar, and he said one night, he goes, I got to get you guys into wrestling.
That was in 1981, you said?
That was in, roughly 81, yeah.
So you broke in with Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, essentially, in different camps.
And the Road Warriors and Rick Rude.
Okay. Now, how the journey to get into the WWE, what was that like at that point in time?
Well, it took quite a while to get there. Mm-hmm. I ended up leaving the camp, and I went to Hawaii and New Zealand and Tonga and Samoa, all over there. I worked for The Rock's grandmother, Mrs. Maivia.
Oh, okay.
And then from there, I went down to Florida Championship Wrestling, and Dusty Rhodes was the booker there. Mm. And then I went to Atlanta, where Ole Anderson was. Then he sent me down to Mid-South with Bill Watts. Mm. And I went from Bill Watts, I went to Florida Championship Wrestling again. And from there, I went to Crockett, NWA and all that. And then... and this was wrestling every night, double shot Saturday, Sunday. So I had a lot of wrestling under my belt at that time. And then after a few years there, I ended up getting the job with the WWF. So it was about 5 years of wrestling every day, all the time.
So you went through every major territory that there was.
Well, there was quite a few more. There was AWA, then there was Portland, Oregon.
You never made your way through AWA?
I never did, and that's where I was from. But you know, I was always working different other territories and other places.
So with that being said, because you did go through the territories. Nowadays we say that guys are green for such a long time. So do you feel like it was quicker for you to not be considered green then because you were wrestling every single night?
Oh, definitely. But, every territory I went to, I learned more, and you wrestle different people in different ways, that they worked. And so you kind of learned everything. But even when I was in the WWF, when I was there for years, you still learn. You learn all the time.
Now, do you see a lot of differences? Because obviously you're still, doing this thing. You're traveling. You're here right now. I think you said you have Cleveland coming up and a bunch of stuff, and you got Michigan coming up and things like that. What are some of the major differences you're seeing from the territory days to the indie wrestling days?
Well, I'll tell you, everybody now wrestling there, everybody's good. They just the indie wrestlers just don't get enough matches under their belt to really be good. And it's not their fault. It's just, it takes time. And a lot of times guys get hurt before they can because they're in front of a crowd and they probably shouldn't have been in front of a crowd and they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. And, that's kind of the difference. When we did it, you wrestled every night and you were wrestling guys that have been in the business for years that could teach you. And they led you through the matches and everything. Now you get two guys that never even worked together and are in the ring a lot of times. But I've seen some of the indie wrestling that is just incredible. And it makes you feel good to see that still,
Yeah, no, I that's amazing to hear because I was actually kind of worried that you were going to be like, it's junk.
well, no, the only difference is we told more stories and it was slower wrestling. But we're 330 pounds where the guys now are 180, 200, 225. I mean, big difference, you know.
Now, do you still watch the WWE product?
Not very often.
No.
I'm a big fan of Charlotte Flair. I've been friends with Rick forever, and his daughter and my son were friends way back when they were kids.
Oh wow!
And last WrestleMania, I thought she had the best match of WrestleMania.
I would find it hard pressed to disagree with you on that one.
And I never would have thought that a girls' match would be better than 90% of the boys' matches, the guys' matches. Well, but it was.
And that's saying something, too, because now WrestleMania is 2 days long.
Right.
It's no longer just the 2 or 3 hour spectacle that it used to be. You have the whole weekend.
Right.
So she had the best match in 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm just biased, but the matches were great. But God, when I saw her, I just thought, Jesus, what a match!
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Now, speaking of WrestleMania and staying on that topic, you've had quite a few WrestleManias under your belt, and you guys are a legendary tag team. Who were some of your favorite people to work with at that period of time in your career?
Yeah, there's so many of them. Andre the Giant, Haku, the Strike Force, the Hart Foundation, the Bulldogs. I mean, there was just so many unbelievable tag teams. Any one of them could have been the champions.
I absolutely agree with that, especially watching now. There's not as many great tag teams. There's a lot of slap-together teams.
Right.
But in the era that you were just talking about, the tag teams were, in my opinion, could steal the show at any given night.
And I thought they did. I mean, it took a heck of a main event match to beat a good tag match.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was brought in there to be a tag team.
Oh, that was specifically why they brought you in.
Yeah,
okay.
and at that time there was probably 10 tag teams that were top tag teams from all the small wrestling organizations that came up there. So
you guys also would get paired together quite a bit with the Road Warriors, who you mentioned earlier. Was that something that ever felt like? Did it get stale to you, or did you love it every time?
I didn't like it at all.
No.
I mean, they didn't build it up. It was just thrown together, and it meant nothing. So then it was hard to have a heel team and a babyface team. We were the baby faces, and they wanted them to be the baby faces, and it just, it takes time to throw two teams like that together.
Yes,
and I think they screwed up, but
so
you have no say.
You think they could have got more mileage out of it then?
Oh, yeah. Shoot. We could have been in the same territory for a year or 2 years before we even got against each other.
Yeah.
We could have had, all four of us could have been friends together, and then we fought them 3 years later. I mean, there's so many different angles you could have did. I mean, look at nowadays, the Samoans.
Yeah.
How many of them are out there now?
Yes, yeah.
The Uzos, the Reigns, there's like a
now
million
the Rock's
of them.
back, and
there's a million of them out there,
So, at that time too, staying on that topic of like kind of slapping it together, I recall then they brought in Crush.
They brought in Crush.
Was that up to you guys, or did that just get handed to you?
Well, at that time, Bill got sick, so then they had to, they booked the matches 3-4 months out.
Yeah.
So we had to have a partner, and then they just brought Crush in, and we really liked Crush. He was a great guy. So that's where he became our partner.
Okay. And I remember, too, it was the three of you. It was Demolition with Crush versus Road Warriors and Ultimate Warrior. And I remember that not having much of a build-up either. Am I remembering that correctly?
You remember that correctly.
It was just all the guys with face paint.
Oh, man. Those are the hardest matches I ever had in my life. I mean, man, after being with these tag teams all the time, the best ever, and then all of a sudden you're with a new team coming in that wants to get over, and then the Road Warrior, and then the Warrior who couldn't work a lick. I mean, it was like, it was pulling teeth. Well, actually, I did get my teeth knocked out by the Warrior. So.
Oh, did you really?
It was pulling teeth.
Wow, during that whole, I don't know, was it?
Elbow in the, just.
Wow.
A real elbow in the chops.
I bet, yeah. I've heard stories about similar situations.
I got along good with them, but, most people have really hated him, and I liked him, but he was always good to me,
Okay. No, for that period of time, too, it felt like not only was the tag team division stacked, like the company itself was stacked.
Yeah.
And, Hogan and Macho and all those guys were on top. Do you have any, like, just off the top of your head, quick stories about, working with Hogan or Macho or anything like that you really enjoyed?
It was just, it's just like everybody else. I mean, they're great guys. They were fun to work with. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other special stories or anything. It's just you wanted to be on Hulk's card because every card he's on is sold out no matter what.
Right.
And, I don't know. It was just great being in the ring with him,
It seems from what you're telling, there's like a lot of camaraderie back then.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Of bonding. Is it because of all, like, you guys were working 5 days a week, so you just family?
5 days a week. We were on the road 62 days one time.
Oh my God!
And that's Saturday's double shot, Sunday's double shot. Then you do TVs on Mondays. Sometimes we'd wrestle 3 times on TV.
Oh my God!
And then Tuesday TV, and then Thursday TV. So, you might have 15 matches in a week.
Oh my God!
So you're with all of these guys on the road, going to the gym, going to bars and this and that, and So you get to be really good friends with all of them.
Oh, that's pretty incredible, and that's something that the indie scene doesn't have right now. Unless you have a contract somewhere, you don't get that kind of travel time.
But even the guys nowadays don't do that anymore. They, they work, 3-4 days a week maybe or whatever, and they go in the dressing room and they play a few video games by themselves and stay by themselves, and they get their 1 or 2 friends.
Yeah.
That's just not how it was with us. It was you had a bond, and nobody could break that bond.
Do you think with today's, I don't know what to call it, I guess today's generation, today's era, that it's because of like the social media and the cell phones and the things like that stop those things?
No, I just think that the office up there has made it stop. The guys just don't go out anymore. When we were out, there was trouble every night when all of us guys. It was. You couldn't do that anymore nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
You'd have a cooler of beer in your car, and you'd drive 250 miles to the town, and you'd be on last, and you'd probably lose 20 pounds in the ring because you had a half-hour match and it's 90 degrees in there.
Oh, man.
Then you ride home, you drink your beers and you'd talk, and you'd meet at a rest area, your opponents, and thank them because you didn't want the fans to see you. And, it was a pretty neat deal. It's so different now. We used to have the good guys go out of one dressing room, the bad guys go out of the other dressing room, and you could never, ever talk, ever.
Oh, wow.
So we used to meet in the middle of the night and, have a few beers and talk and, tell them, what you didn't like with them, and they'd tell you the same, and you'd work it out, and the next night you'd have an incredible match because of that. And then the referee, you'd send messages back and forth with the referee. He probably ran 20 miles a night, running back and forth.
I love that. That's excellent.
Yeah, because we never went over the matches. We just did everything in the ring.
So, how many times, and this is going to be probably a really rough estimate, but how many nights in a row do you think you would work the same team on any given stretch of time on the road?
Well, it all depends on, if we were like in Syracuse, you'd wrestle the Bulldogs. Buffalo was close by, so then you'd wrestle the Hart Foundation.
Oh, I see.
And then Rochester, you'd wrestle somewhere else. But then now you might be in L.A., then you're wrestling them. But nothing was ever filmed or anything when you did the same team all the time.
Right.
So there were all house shows like that. So in a week's time, you might wrestle the Hart Foundation 3 times. You might wrestle the Bulldogs 3 times. You might wrestle the Strike Force 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
So
is there any team that you think people associate you with the most? I know probably people will say the Road Warriors, but for me, when I think Demolition, I think Hart Foundation. Like those were some of my favorite matches to watch as a kid. So is there a team that gets brought up to you the most when people say, "How was working with whoever?"
I think it's the Hart Foundation or the Brain Busters.
Oh, the Brain Busters.
Great matches with the Brain Busters, the Bulldogs. I mean, we had good matches with everybody, and that's why everybody wanted to work with us, because we had really good matches. We weren't selfish where we wanted to eat guys up. We had good matches.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but I've actually heard the opposite about the Road Warriors, that they would eat guys up.
They would eat guys up, yeah. But, I mean, we ate guys up, too, at TV,
Yeah, right.
But the main teams, you couldn't, because those are the guys you got to work with every night.
And you work with the Rockers, too, right?
Yeah, Rockers, great guys. But, the house shows, or the TV shows that we had where we'd, beat somebody up for 6 minutes or whatever, those guys were the most unbelievable guys out of everybody, because they're the ones that got us over.
Oh, okay.
And we loved those guys. And, we apologize before and apologize after and take them out and buy them a beer,
Yeah.
But, I mean, those were the guys that made the Demolition. Without them, we wouldn't have been the badasses we were.
So, towards the end of your run in WWE, was that your decision to end that run, or how did that happen?
With Demolition?
Yes, yeah.
It was all of ours.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you all went off to do different things.
Yeah.
You weren't just out of the company or anything like
Right.
that, which is why I was curious as to how that came to an end, because it just seemed like you were just this, you were featured in the WrestleFest video game, and you guys were just kicking ass, and then you went on to do different things within the company. So what was the mindset there?
It was just the Road Warriors were in there, and I think we were hurting them.
Oh, I see.
They were the team.
Okay.
We were no longer the guys anymore, and we were similar looks. We worked completely different, but it's when the office gets something in their heads, it might not be right, but it is right to them.
Yeah, I got you.
So that's when I went on to be the Repo Man, and Bill went to Japan, and Brian was Crush, and
yes.
So we were lucky enough to still have jobs.
Yeah, and what a different Brian remained Crush, but what a different style, different look he had. It was like these flashy colors and all that stuff at first.
Yeah.
But the Repo Man for you, was that your idea? Or did that get?
It was
handled?
both of ours. Yeah.
How did you feel about that run as the Repo Man? Because that's a memorable character for me.
I loved it, and it was supposed to be the end of my career. Was I was going to be a baby face. And I did a lot of stuff for Make-A-Wish, and I really wanted to have that character turn babyface and just go and do Make-A-Wish stuff around. But it ended up being where Vince said, we're not going to make you a babyface. And then that's when he said that, then I said, well, I'm putting my notice in, because I was told I was going to be a babyface at the end of this run.
Yeah.
And you're telling me no. So that's when I put in my notice. It was starting to get hard to be a heel with that, because I already... and that character was to get everybody over.
Yeah.
But to be a guy who could win,
Yeah.
So, I worked with Duggan, Savage, all the top guys I worked with as the Repo Man.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun doing it. And it was to get those guys over to go against Hogan or whoever.
Yes, yeah.
And then that's when I was going to turn babyface and come back, and then I can get all my wins back, know.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen that way.
When you were doing that character at the time, I think it's common knowledge now that was you. But at the time, was that common knowledge? Did the fans know that it was you?
They didn't have a clue who I was because
That's what I thought.
I lost 60 pounds and
Yeah.
worked different, did goofy shit, But it was. I had a good run, year and a half or so of that.
Yeah.
It was good.
So what happens after you put in your notice and you leave WWE? What do you go off and do?
Well, then I ended up working at WCW. I had a couple of different gimmicks there, and I was the Blacktop Bully, which I thought was really starting to get over. And then I was wrestling Dustin Rhodes in a truck, and we got fired that night.
Yeah. Oh, you got fired that night?
That night we
Really?
got fired. Yeah.
I remember that match.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff calls me up the next day and says, Barry, I got some good news and bad news. And I said, well, give me the good news. He says, hell of a match. Everybody popped. It was great. The office loved it. And I said, what's the bad news? He goes, you're fired. I said, you got to be kidding me. So he says, don't give me a hard time. He says, I'll hire you back later on. Just take some time off. So I was fired. Dustin was fired. Mike Graham was fired.
What's the reasoning after you had a match that everybody popped for and enjoy it?
We had blood in the match.
Oh.
And it was for video deals and all this certain stuff. But we were told to do that.
Yeah.
So anyways, I ended up leaving, and then I came back and had a hell of a contract and didn't hardly even work.
Oh, wow.
So best deal I ever had in wrestling.
Yeah, right.
Could last forever doing that. I wish I was still under that contract.
Yeah, I mean, you saved your body. You got all. That's fantastic.
So then after all that, then it was kind of the end of my wrestling, and I started a company with one of my best friends, and we had that for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
And sold it off 4 years ago, and now I just do autograph signs with acts, and we're on the road again,
And it's amazing to see. And this is the second time I've run into you while you're doing this, and it's always a pleasure. And just a couple more things before I get you out of here is when you had your own company, were you just running the company or were you training wrestlers?
Just run the company.
Do you ever do seminars or things like that?
We do seminars every once in a while, but we go out twice a month doing what we're doing here, and we don't want to do any more than that because otherwise it's a real job,
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're in Syracuse, and then we come back, and then I go back to Orlando, and the traveling's killing us both.
Yeah.
My knees, my back, and Bill's the same way. It's hard, when somebody says, "Oh yeah, it's only an hour flight." Well, it's 5 hours because you got to get to the. It's unbelievable. So I was up at 2:30 this morning, and here I am right now. I haven't been to bed yet.
Yeah, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I get out of here about 8 o'clock or whatever, and hour and a half back, and then we got an early morning tomorrow again. So so it's not fun doing that.
And especially because, obviously you've put your time in. You said 1981 you started, and it's 2024, so that's completely understandable. That being said, is there anybody that you can think of off the top of your head that you didn't get a chance to ever work with, but you would have liked to?
I would have liked to have had single matches and had a run with Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
I really would have.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in the cards,
Would you have liked to do that as Smash?
As Smash.
Yeah.
I really would have. I thought we would have had great matches, and that was the one thing I wish I could have done.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, and at the time, I wouldn't have been shocked to see that. As a kid watching at that time, Demolition was the team; they were the guys.
Right.
So for one of you to go after Hogan would have made perfect sense to me.
Well, and I thought it would be perfect for Axe and Smash to jump Hulk.
And
put the boots to him and leave him laying.
Yeah.
That. And then which one of us wrestles them?
Yeah, the story starts writing itself from there.
And then we would never cheat, but
Yeah, of course. And I gotta say, Kiss just retired, but you guys are still out doing your thing. So the face paint that you wear has outlasted Kiss right now.
Exactly.
I appreciate you being on the show.
You take care of yourself.
I thank you so much for this. You too.
All right.
And if you wanted to plug anything, feel free. But if not,
plug retirement, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for
take it
everything.
easy.
Once again, Rock Soldiers, that was Demolition Smash, Repo Man, Barry Darsow, however you know him, he is a legend in the wrestling business, and it was really cool of him to just jump on impromptu like that and to give us such a great interview. So thank you to Barry Darsow, and thank you to you listeners, and please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you listen to your podcasts on, we're on. Also, please give us a follow on social media, ABAO Pod, on Instagram, X, and Facebook. And if you should be so inclined, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And we will catch you guys next week on the All Bets Are Off podcast.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.